So we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the stories essentially of this guy. He's a grave digger. Apparently the money's pretty decent, really good actually. But the issue is he feels like he is bringing empty caskets to a grave. So you have a few things that I was thinking about. Okay, then we're gonna look at some videos. One, you don't see many cemeteries popping up. You know what I mean? You may have a change in ownership for funeral homes, but there's like no real cemeteries that are just appearing like these condos are. Okay, like these high-rise condos. So it's like, well, where are the people go? There are other theories that people do have in regards to this story. So let's actually just go ahead and take a look. We're going to go first, see what the original poster, what he said, and then other people's reaction to the story. Let's get into it.
Y'all want to hear some shit to really blow y'all's mind this morning? So, as a side hustle, I dig graves in graveyards and cemeteries across Bowling Green and surrounding counties. Something didn't set right with me today. As I was digging, the guy that's the director of the graveyard walked up to me. And he was like, we need to lift that casket up to get it even. So we put it on a tally and brought it back up. When we brought it back up, it come off even in a way, but it was crooked in the corner. So he's like, we got to lift it. So I lifted it, me and him together. But the weirdest thing was, it was really light. Like, extremely light. Like, and I'm not a big dude. So I was like, I told him, I was like, why is that so light? He was like, don't ask questions that you ain't ready for. Y'all, I'm freaked out. What are they doing with these bodies? So I was just informed that if I don't take the video down about the body not being in the casket, then I'm going to get fired. My boss called me and told me that the video's causing distraction from the funeral homes and the cemeteries. And that also, it could cause them people to look elsewhere. That being said, it could cost him money for less burials. And me as well. I knew when I posted that there was a possibility, something would be said, but I never dreamed that I could maybe be fired. But honestly, I feel like that I'm going to leave the video up, and whatever comes out of it, comes out of it. They did wrong, not me. No matter what nobody says in the comment, no matter what nobody tells you. Gravedigger, part 3. I'm finally free to say a little bit more because charges have been filed. I knew that day that the casket was empty. And I want to clarify something. I was not digging up a casket. That was a fresh burial. The person had been dead for 2 days. That's it. No longer. So no, the body didn't decay. Nothing like that happened. We was putting the casket on, and it's got to set straight. Like, you got to put it on there, and, to lower it in the hole, of course, it's got to be on top of there. Well, it had come up, and it had popped up in the corner a little bit. So I went over there, and the director told me, he's like, hey, we got to get this back on here, we got to get it straight. So I'm like, cool, we do it all the time, but usually it's pretty hard. Sometimes it takes a couple of us, but usually more, depending on how big the person is, how heavy everything is. So we went over there and we went to put it on, and when we did, my side popped up all the way, like pretty much to the point to where I knew it was empty. I questioned him, and he told me, to not ask questions that I wasn't ready for the answer for. Then, after talking to one of my fellow gravediggers, Scott, he told me the truth. He said, man, he said, I'm going to tell you something. And he said, this don't go no further than me and you. He's like, they're not burying a lot of people because the meat has other destinations. Now, that night I got a call after I made the video, and I was told to take the video down because it was causing disruption. You know, people had been talking to my boss, and his daughter had actually seen it on TikTok also. Therefore, I didn't take the video down. So my fate was sealed. I was terminated, which I had no problem with. A couple days after that, me and a person talked on here, and he said, you know, I think that you should take this time to kind of expose the funeral industry because you already have in a way. So now that's kind of my goal. That's where I'm at. This wasn't the first time that happened. There's also some shady stuff going on to where I noticed that they was telling us not to bury nobody while there was any type of family there. They're like, don't let them see you bury anybody. We don't want people spectating. You know, and that could be for all kind of purposes, but that's what was happening. Also, like in the funeral homes, I was noticing like that the people that own them like had a lot of money. Like, and I mean, you know, I know they make a lot of money, but like it was unreal. Like they had new Corvettes, and one of the funeral homes, they don't even hardly bury very many people. It's in a small town. They have like maybe 2 or 3 funerals a week. And like their son is like 17 and he has a 2025 Corvette. They have like a huge house. They own like a vacation home in Florida. And like things just wasn't adding up. So I started getting suspicious. So instead of just quitting the job in the first place like I was going to do when I first started it, I started to kind of infiltrate them. And I started paying attention to what they was doing. And this wasn't the first time that I handled an empty casket. And I also heard so much things that I'm going to tell you in the future on lives, but I can't tell you in videos. But I'm letting you know that they're not doing right with the bodies. They're not burying a lot of them. There's a lot of organ trafficking. They're targeting immigrants, inmates, people with no families. And they're literally selling them. And it's not just one funeral home. It's thousands. And the more I look into this, the worse it gets. I pray you're still with me. We got a long road ahead of us. But I wanted to make a part 3 and kind of let you know where I was at and clarify some things. I hope you listen. God bless you all, and thank you for supporting me through this journey.
This is mind-blowing and something to think about. Do you ever think about what happens to the bodies after you leave a funeral procession? Why do I ask? Because there's a viral video that's going around where a guy explains how he allegedly believes, because of the weight of some of the caskets, that there are no bodies in them. So this gentleman right here claims that while he was on his side gig of digging graves, he's seen things that have led him to believe that there are no bodies inside the caskets. So basically, while he was digging a grave, the cemetery director walked over to him and said, hey, we need to dig up that grave. So he went ahead and they dug up the casket. Upon digging up the casket, it came up uneven, a little crooked, sideways is what he says, like it didn't have enough weight in it. So after that, the funeral director told him it should be lifted up manually. So they went ahead, they lifted it up manually, and that's when he felt that it wasn't heavy enough, and he said to himself, I don't think there's a body inside this. So he basically asked, why is this casket so light? The funeral director turned to him and said, don't ask questions that you're not ready for. One thing I want you to think about now that this story has come to light, and you never thought about it, I never thought about it, there are 144,000 cemeteries across the U.S. as of 2025. One question you should be asking is, when was the last time you seen them build a new cemetery? So, of course, I went and did some digging. Why haven't you seen new cemeteries being built? Here is what came up when I searched for it. Land availability. They are building like crazy all over the United States. Therefore, where are you going to put cemeteries? Increased land costs. But funerals cost an arm and a leg. Excuse the pun. Environmental concerns. Alternate burial options and grave recycling. You heard what I said. Grave recycling. There is a such thing. In some cases, cemeteries are expanding their capacity by reusing burial spaces through a practice called grave recycling. So the question remains, with so many people across the United States, people pass away every day, every minute. What's going on with the bodies? Where are they going? Are you thinking about this? Is it something that I've never thought about this until I listened to that viral video, and I'm starting to say, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. And as always, I'd love to hear from you.
The only one who saw that guy on my For You page that was a grave digger, and he said that he did it as a side hustle, and he basically was talking about his experience and what happened and how he feels like all of this is a scam, or all what's going on with the bodies at graveyards. I've always felt like this was weird, but let me just tell y'all. So basically he said that he decided to do or take on a part-time job as a grave digger, and it was paying good money, so he decided to go ahead and do it. Now, at one of the jobs, at one of the cemeteries he was at, they were using like the little crane thing to, like, lower or lift up the body out of the ground. And it was uneven. It was not coming out evenly. So they had to manually get it out. Now, he had to help. It was another guy, and I believe it was one other dude. He said that when he lifted up the casket, it was light as a feather. Like, I'm talking about, it was so light that it doesn't even make sense. He said to one of the guys that worked there for a while, he said, "Why is it so light?" The guy said, "You don't want to talk about, like, you don't want to get into that." What is that supposed to mean? He was basically like, he had chills. He was like, that's all he said. Well, come to find out, he posted this video, got a lot of views, got a lot of traction, and his job contacted him and said that he needs to take that video down or he's going to lose it. And he also feels like he's in danger for his life because of hearing that information. Now, he wasn't even told the whole story, but the crazy thing is, where are all these bodies going? There's only so much land and only so much space on these graveyards, and there's so many people that passed away, especially during COVID, right? And they had talked about this during COVID, about how they used ice boxes to store bodies because it was so many people that passed away. And it makes you think, if these cemeteries are only so big, and why are they not opening up new cemeteries? Why don't you hear about new cemetery lots being opened up? Stuff like that. It makes you really wonder what is going on with these bodies and what are they doing with them.
So by now, I'm sure y'all done seen that viral video of that gentleman saying he has a side hustle for digging graves. He noticed while him and his boss was trying to level out the caskets in the grave sites that they were kind of light when lifting. Now, the gentleman say he asked his boss or coworker, and the man replied back, "Don't ask a question you're not ready for the answer." Well, back in 2009, Burr Oak Cemetery was raided, and multiple people was charged with digging up human remains from graves for resale. As finding out this information, it made international headlines. At the time of the investigation, authorities had estimated that 300 graves were dug up. Now, if it wasn't bad enough that they was digging up bodies and reselling burial plots, but they was disposing of the bones in a remote area on the cemetery's northern edge. Now, authorities say the reason that they ended up getting caught is because they got reckless towards the end. If it wasn't for them becoming reckless, then this terrible tragedy never would have came to light. So if you think this guy's tripping about what he's saying, he not. Now, if this transpired 15 years ago, just imagine what other cemeteries probably have been doing since then.